where is that? What is this home village of the self? It's not about our small ego self. Of course, it's not separate from that. All phenomena are the unadorned clarity of mind, he says. To let go beyond letting go and actualize the home village of the self is simply another way of saying to take refuge in Buddha. So maybe we could understand what he's saying in this essay about the awesome presence of active Buddhas as to turn towards this possibility of Buddha, whatever that is. And then, how do we find the home village of the self? That reminded me, and I don't know that the home village of the self is a phrase from another koan, but it might be. But there is a phrase from Blue Cliff Record, case 61. That's a story that in the main case, the teacher asked, are there any patchwork monks who can live together and die together? And in the commentary, Yuan says, he has his own mountain spirit realm. And I just, again, finding these phrases that resonate, that help us sink into this vital process. It's part of, to me, part of the joy of reading Dogen. It's not, you don't read Dogen to try and figure out and understand it, but there are phrases like this. And this was from the Blue Cliff Record, but he has his own mountain spirit realm. Or, in Chicago I say she has her own prairie spirit realm or lake spirit realm. Here, you have your own Everglade spirit realm, but But where is this home village of the self? So part of this process, this vital process on the path of going beyond Buddha, is this coming home, returning home to Buddha. Taking refuge is an interest. The idea of taking refuge is very interesting. Partly it implies refuge as in sanctuary, but it's also like a fugue, returning back to a starting point. To paraphrase T.S. Eliot. So for Dogen, Buddha is not not something on some exotic being on some exotic realm, but something that we don't wait for we don't wait for awakening. The Buddhas don't wait for awakening. Awakening is something that is available here. I feel that very strongly as one of Dogen's messages, so to speak. And again, there's so much more in the original Gyobutsu Iki essay. I'll just close with one more little section that he talks about. He talks about everyday activities. So how do we experience this awesome presence of active Buddhas? Again, if it's not on some mountaintop realm. So Dogen says, although the everyday activities of active Buddhas invariably allow Buddhas to practice, active Buddhas allow everyday activities to practice. So again, what does that mean? Dogen offers us these they might seem mysterious, but on some level I feel rich and comforting. What does it mean to allow everyday activities to practice? We could see this in terms of the monastic rules and allowing the forms of the Zendo or of eating Ryoki meals or of the various forms that are part of the Zen tradition as forms that allow us to practice, and if we take them on fully, even though we could say they're just rituals, well, they are rituals. They're ritual ways of expressing this act of Buddha. But I think when he talks about everyday activities, it's not just the activities in the Zendo. How do we allow washing the dishes or taking out the trash or cooking or gardening to be Buddha, to be active practice? So anyway, I wanted to just open up a little bit of this essay, Gyobutsu Iki, the Awesome Presence of Active Buddhas, and share that with you because I think it's one of Dogen's richer essays. Of course, there are many others. But I'll stop now and ask if there are any comments or responses or questions. Griff?
I wouldn't translate the title the way you did, not right away. You make Gyo into an adjective, an active Buddha. But it's almost certainly in Chinese, this is a verb, it means to practice.
Practice
And the Buddha is the adjective. So I would translate this is to practice the etiquette or the igi, decorum of a Buddha. That's the baseline meaning. Now, your meaning, does Dogen use Gyobutsu, standing alone, like an active Buddha? Right? He does.
He does.
So he's playing with it.
Yes, he is.
He's playing with something. Okay.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to point out that, you know, when I'm translating, I prefer to start with what it actually says and then maybe, you know, go to like the metaphorical meaning or the other meaning. So I just want to point that out because it's sort of important. I mean, you know that it's actually ambiguous. So all translators are faced with a problem. Am I going to bring out the sort of point of this in the title, or am I going to stick with the literal translation? Okay.
Right, I agree.
Okay, that's all. Also, I found the quote.
Oh, yeah.
You want to know where it's from?
Yes.
It's Yuanu Kachin,
Of course.
and it's really long. I want anyone, you know, it's a little piece.
Is it part of his Blue Cliff Record commentary?
This is the note I have in my translation, where I find that in Kenbutsu, seeing the Buddha, the expression dragged through mud, drenched in water, was often used by Chan Master Yuanu and by his disciple Dogen. It's very common actually. In many contexts, the expression is employed as a disapproving comment on someone's words, indicating that the speaker is muddled and caught up in deluded thinking. And so it's in Blue Cliff Record actually.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, I won't read the whole thing, but it's a little piece of a very long comment by Yuanu.
Yeah, and this is just another example of how much Dogen has at his fingertips.
But I mean,
all of these.
But see, this thing here, if I were to read it, it contextualizes his use of that. Right. So
Yes.
he knows that, and it changes the meaning of what he says when he mentions mud and water.
Okay, so.
And where is it?
To the Blue Cliff Record. So you guys, you know, go look
It's a
at the
big
hearing.
record.
You can go find
They
it.
want to know what case.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. Uh-oh.
Oh,
Oh.
I'll just mention that
Case 37.
in case 37 is mentioned as a negative, in a negative context, as Rich said. But Dogen says active Buddhas or Gyobutsus are free from obstruction as they penetrate the vital path of being splattered by mud and soap
Right.
and water.
There's also Soto commentators say that it's a metaphor for skillful means.
Yeah.
The Buddhists really, you know, bodhisattvas get down in the mud with ordinary living beings.
Sure, it's about the bodhisattva path, for sure. Yeah. Other questions, comments? Yes.
hi, I'm Gina. How are you doing?
Hi.
I was just curious because this is the first time I've learned about this, but I do study a lot of Buddhism and Eastern religions. But how you say that it's active Buddhist, but if you're living in like an everyday, it's still considered ascetic in the mind, the way you would garden, the way you would handle with your own kids, or because it seems that you're saying that it's active Buddhism, but you're living in like this world, this everyday activities. Does it make it harder for one to separate from attachments because you're more surrounded by it? I don't know if that makes sense.
Okay, I think I heard a question in there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. Yeah, no, so as Griff pointed out, active Buddhas is just one way to translate it, but he's talking about Buddhas practicing and, you know, I'm obviously, you know, in the spirit of Dogen, I'm playing with this and translating it, in a sense, for our context. So Dogen was teaching to monastics, mostly. There were lay people also, but you know, for most of American Zen, practicing in the world with parenting and with working in the world, and you know, I feel like Dogen, in the spirit again of bringing Dogen down to our earth, that that a lot of these sayings, yes, are relevant to how to practice with the attachments we have. So to recognize a vital process on an active on a path is to, in some sense, have some space around all of the attachments that we're involved with, but also the Bodhisattva way is about not being attached to non-attachment. So in some sense, this is more advanced practice, it's more difficult. It's, you know, for those of you, and there's some, I know some in the audience who've gone to practice in monastic context and ongo, and, you know, in some sense, not that it's not very challenging, but in some sense, there is the support of the community and of the monastic containers. But most of American Zen Buddhists are out in the world, you know, with relationships and parenting and jobs and, you know, going to the grocery store and so forth. And I think what Dogen is saying, even though he was speaking to monks, has something that's important to say to that kind of practice. In the same way that Dogen's Pure Standards for the Zen Community, A. Shingi, that Shohaku and I translated, is about the practice of monks in the monastery in the everyday, in taking on their various positions like a head chef and the various jobs in the monastery, but the spirit of how to take on everyday activities that is in A. Shingi, I think it is relevant in ways that need some unpacking for us. Yes?
I just was interested in having you talk about briefly the concept of faith in the Buddhist sense, which I think is different than the Western way of looking at the word. And I was wondering if we could kind of just go into that a little bit for the sake of the audience, some of those who haven't studied or practiced.
Well, we have this problem in translating and in just talking about any of this stuff in English, that any religious word, you know, has connotations from Abrahamic religions or Christianity. So I like the suggestion that Will made to use the word clergy or cleric rather than priest or monk for what Zen priests or Zen for Zen clerics. The same with the word faith. There's a lot of Christian baggage around that, Western religious baggage around that. Faith usually means, in a Western context, or it can come to mean belief in something. And I think the spirit of faith in Dogen and Zen is more, maybe better to translate as trust, or confidence even. And it's not faith in something outside. It's not faith in something inside either. Exactly. It's this kind of willingness to take the next breath, to take the next step, to be involved in mistake upon mistake.